Coming up on Hoge Jahns, it's a bye-week check-in episode. We're going to talk Caleb Williams, of course, what we like from his first 4 weeks of the season. And our friend Kevin Clark from Omaha and ESPN joins us for a great conversation. Hoge Jahns starts right now. What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you as we head into the bye week, back from Vegas, surviving. What's up, Johnsy?
The bye week is perfect, like post-Vegas.
Yeah.
If you think about it. Like if you
I didn't really think about it that way until I was like flying home yesterday trying to watch the film. If you're watching on YouTube, this was literally me watching the film on the way home, the entire flight. Watch for 5 minutes. Doze off for 5 minutes. I don't sleep well on planes. My head falls forward just like that, and I wake back up, rewind 5 minutes, catch back up, fall asleep again. I did that for 3.5 hours. It was, and then we had a nice 40-minute ride from the the runway at O'Hare to the gate at O'Hare. That's always fun.
Oh, we had that too. We landed early, but if you land early, sometimes your gate is not ready, so you just end up sitting there. At least in this case, I got to watch the Cubs game. Didn't see the finish, but saw a lot of it. But I'm like you, I don't sleep well on planes. But there was a point where I was done eating my lunch. I was watching a movie, and I'm like, I'm just going to rest my eyes for a little bit. I thought I dozed off for like 5 minutes, but I think it might have been like 40 to 45 minutes that I was out, which is something because I don't sleep like that on planes. But there was like a time gap that I had to make up for.
Yeah, no, I'm all for this. I think it's kind of like when you go to London, like the team's supposed to have a mandated bye week. Like I think it should be the same thing for Vegas. If you play the Raiders in Las Vegas, you automatically get a bye week right after.
Fans need it too. I stayed until Tuesday, and there were still fans there. Like when I was leaving this morning, at the tables in full Bears gear, probably their 4th or 5th Bears shirt, that they traveled with. There they were, still having a good time.
Yeah, Steven and Greg are still there. I don't think they're ever coming back. They're just gonna play golf forever.
Yeah, just
and hang out.
Just make sure Bragg's aiming for the right greens.
Yeah, well, right. It's great approach shots to the wrong green. Claims he shot an 85 today. Again, don't know what holes he was playing, but 85 on some holes. Whatever. All right, well, we're here with you. This will be our last episode of the week as we head into the bye week. Just a 2-episode week. We will be right back though early next week and have 3 for you as we jump into Washington Commanders week, which will be a big one for a number of different reasons. But before we get there, we do want to just kind of reset things going into the bye. And the biggest of all those topics is the quarterback. Should also mention Kevin Clark from Omaha and ESPN will be joining us. Does a great job. Always love talking to Kevin. Good friend. Knows football. And he will be joining us here in a little bit too. Good guest to check up on as a little bit of the national perspective as we head into the bye. But right now, Johnsy, we're calling this our Caleb Williams bye week check-in, and it is brought to you by RC Cola. RC Cola is not a soft drink, just damn good cola.
I missed not having RC Cola in the press box.
Yeah, the Raiders got to figure that out.
They do.
I don't know what they're doing up there. Maybe if they had RC Cola, their field goal block team wouldn't be so soft. And I call it field goals. Their field goal protection team, whatever you want to.
Would have been better.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to read you some stats on Caleb Williams, and let's have that lead our discussion.
Okay.
So a lot of these numbers initially are from Pro Football Reference. I think we can all agree it's a very reliable statistical website. Just lots of numbers on this thing. So let's just begin. Let's start with traditional passer rating, which I think we can all agree has become more of an incomplete stat, but I still think it's relevant because it's kind of endured, right? It hasn't been completely dismissed, but there's new stats added to it. So this is traditional passer rating. After 4 weeks, Caleb Williams ranks 14th in the NFL amongst qualified quarterbacks with a passer rating of 97.8. The league average right now after 4 weeks is 92.0. The league leader right now is Lamar Jackson from the Baltimore Ravens with a whopping 130.5.
That's wild.
More?
That's a really high number. Yeah. I mean, okay. So he's say that again. Where he ranks again?
He ranks 14th.
Okay.
97.8. The league.
He's above league average.
He's above league average. League average is 90.2. Or sorry, 92.0. Sack percentage. The league average right now amongst qualified quarterbacks is 6.52. Caleb Williams ranks 11th with a sack percentage of 5.11. He's been sacked 7 times in 4 games. So another instance where he's above the league average. League average is 0.52.
And trending well below that 68 sack number from last season.
Yes. The last amongst qualified quarterbacks, get this, Lamar Jackson. With a sack percentage of 13.64. He's been sacked 15 times in 4 games.
Yeah, they got some things to fix there.
Yes. Adjusted net yards per attempt. So this is, if you're in the analytics, this is like a long-standing measurement for good passers. Like if you go back in history, like Drew Brees, good at adjusted net yards per attempt. Peyton Manning, good with this stat. Like some of the best quarterbacks have high marks with this stat. It's, ANY/A, as you see it on Pro Football Reference. That's adjusted net yards per pass attempt. Caleb Williams, after 4 weeks, ranks 11th at 6.91. The league average is 5.99. So another good indication that things are working between him and Ben Johnson. Again, he's at 6.91. The league average is 5.99. If we're looking for areas of concern, completion percentage. He ranks 25th amongst qualified quarterbacks at 62.3. The league average is 65.3. So let's say that again. He's at 62.3 for completion percentage, ranking 25th, just ahead of Patrick Mahomes, I should say. But the league average is 65.3. The league leader in completion percentage right now, can you guess? I don't think you'll get it.
The league leader in completion percentage
after 4 weeks.
Right now, is it Daniel Jones?
No. Good guess, though.
Okay.
Daniel Jones is 4th.
Can I cheat and tell you that it's Drake May? Because I just did.
He just looked. Okay. So there are 7 quarterbacks, 7, who have a completion percentage of 70% or higher right now in the NFL. Drake May, Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Drake May, like, it's 74%.
That's something.
Now, okay, what's his average depth of target to get that nonsense? What are we doing here? And this is where you got to really dive into some of this stuff. Drake May's average depth of target ranks 30th. So there you go. Get out of here with that not 74%.
What's Daniel Jones is at?
A for Daniel Jones. He's actually 9th. 8.51 yards. And Caleb is 13th at 8.32.
QBR.
But hang on real quick. So 8.32, Drake May's at 6.89. So, I mean, I'm just saying there's other things that explain, why.
What they're doing.
Basically, how hard are these throws?
So QBR, which is, ESPN's version of passer rating with a lot more that goes into it. Caleb Williams ranks 18th, according to Pro Football Reference, at 57.5. The league leader is Lamar Jackson at an 83.6.
So can we? I mean, we could keep going numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers.
We got more coming, but let's get through these.
Right.
Hit that again.
It didn't.
Didn't work. Didn't play.
Oh, you know why? Here, hang on. I knew this was going to happen eventually. You know what? We got a charging cord and we got an audio cord. It looked the exact same and they're the same color. So let's try this again, Bob, if we can. No.
Point is, those are some numbers.
There it is.
We got Bob. We found Bob again. He keeps going missing this season. I don't know what his problem is, but he's hanging out with Braggs and Steven in Vegas still, I guess.
That trio would have fun.
All right. Do you have more numbers? Because
We'll
I'm kind of ready to summarize the numbers.
All right, go ahead. Are there some EPA stuff we could get to? Do you want them now or do you want them after?
Okay, give us the EPA per play.
Okay, this is from Sumer Sports. So his EPA per play amongst qualified quarterbacks, you and I adjusted this before we started the show. So minimum plays is 50.
Yep.
So your league leader in EPA per play is Jordan Love, followed by Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Daniel Jones, and then fifth, Jared Goff. Drake May is actually sixth.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams ranks 20th after 4 weeks in EPA per play. Pass EPA, Caleb Williams ranks 14th.
Right. And it's important because it's his rush EPA that's dragging his total EPA down. He's 31st in rush EPA. He's not really trying to be a high quality rush guy. He can move, obviously. And they ran some design runs, and one just was a complete disaster against the Raiders. So I'm not too I guess my point is I care more about what that passing EPA is, and he's 14th. He's 14th at this point. So look, I what I was going to do is just like we kind of did this last week on CHGO where we gave all these numbers and blah 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 blah, and we were like, hey, through 3 games, including one that was kind of a stinker in week 1, Caleb Williams is a top 10 quarterback statistically. After Sunday's game against the Raiders, which didn't go well offensively for a number of different reasons, but they still managed to get in the end zone when it mattered, including an absolutely insane touchdown pass to Roma Dunze thrown with incredible anticipation before he was even coming out of his break in a tight window. Caleb Williams falls back a little bit. So he's league average right now. Let me tell you something. That's a step in the right direction for the Chicago Bears. And there's still a long way to go in all this. So I think it all leads to the big question I wanted to get to before we bring in Kevin Clark, and that is, and I could see how a lot of different people, including listeners, viewers, maybe the answer to this question is going to vary a little bit. But how much better do you feel about Caleb Williams right now, Johnsy, through 4 weeks going in the bye week? And not just Caleb, but Ben and this whole thing working offensively. Do you feel better about that now than you did as we were going into the Vikings game in week 1?
Yes. It starts with throws, like his touchdown throw to Roma Dunze, where if you watch that closely, he's letting go of that football before Rome hits the top of his break against the cornerback, gets behind the safety. Like that ball is in the air when Roma Dunze is making his cut left before breaking inside on his post route. I love that. That's an anticipatory throw. That's quarterback play at the highest level. That's what you need from your young starting quarterback. Like, I love that throw. I love how he plays in 2-minute situations. It's like almost an overdone storyline to hear about, his slow heartbeat and stuff, because we've heard this before.
Mm-hmm.
It was a storyline last year because he excelled in the same situations. This is Caleb Williams. It's just part of his makeup. It's part of his success. He's good in those moments. I like that continued to be a storyline after 4 weeks. That's extremely encouraging. But at the same time, I think these stats illustrate that there's more progress needed, more development needed. There's specific areas, like completion percentage, that I know Ben Johnson would like for him to improve. And I know what you're saying about Drake May's easy completions. I think there's been play calls for Caleb Williams where there's been easy completions, built into the game plan, but he's not making them. I'm thinking of some of these wide receiver screens where he's just inaccurate on. So those types of plays that Ben Johnson would probably like to have as a part of, as an extension of his run game, because his run game isn't working, like that needs to work for Caleb Williams more. So I think the first 4 games have given him and Ben Johnson a great foundation to build upon going forward.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about this whole thing because training camp was shaky at best. The pre-snap penalties were a huge concern going into the first game. And it was scary. Let's just call it how it is. It was scary to see a lot of that stuff continue in week 1 against the Vikings. And then it got a lot better. And it got a lot better in a horrible game. You gave up 52 points to the Lions. And it was kind of hard to see through the bad defensively. And all of a sudden you go back and you watch that tape on the offense and you're like, this is actually pretty good. It's actually a step in the right direction. I think we can agonize over numbers all we want. And eventually, especially once we have a bigger sample size, him ranking top 10, middle of the pack, or in the 20s will matter. Like, let's check back in halfway through the season on that. If he's in the 20s overall, that'll put us kind of back in a similar place where we've been before, where we're like kind of squint to see that Justin Fields might be the guy. Oh, but his EPA is like, if you take out his rushing EPA, he's like 31st in the league in passing. Like, but I don't think that's where we're going to be with Caleb. And I think you can also look at it like this. What's the toughest defense he's faced so far?
Detroit?
And see, I was going to say the Vikings. I think the Vikings caused a lot of problems in that game. It was the toughest defense. But the best player he has faced overall, with all due respect to Aiden Hutchinson, was Max Crosby on Sunday. And by the way, good opportunity to tease our insider analysis column that came out this morning, because we basically it's all about the offensive line, and whether that's the running game or what I broke down, which is all the different ways they try to contain Max Crosby with various levels of success and disaster mixed in there. My point is, look, at some point, you're going to have to be able to put it all together against the best of the best in the NFL. But if we're talking 4 games with Ben Johnson, I will take the fact that against Detroit and Dallas, he looked calm, poised, on time, in rhythm. I think that word rhythm matters a lot. His base, his feet, to me, have taken a major step. The film, set aside the numbers for 2 seconds. Like, the film looks a lot better. And then, yes, did crazy man Max Crosby show up and get him off his spot, and all of a sudden things looked, well, I think we would say not in rhythm for a lot of that game on Sunday? Sure, because he was constantly having to worry about this menace to one side of the field, and there are going to be games like that where there's a player that good that's going to do that. But how many times did he get sacked again?
Once.
So there's a lot of, to me, there's just going to be games like that in the NFL. Ben Johnson has said as much, and guess what? He still delivered when they needed him to, and they won the game, most importantly.
So just in terms of the best pass rushing teams that he's played this far, Detroit Lions lead the league right now after 4 weeks in sack percentage at 10.6. The Minnesota Vikings are 5th at 9.5. The Lions are 2nd in the league with 14 sacks this season. The Vikings are 11th.
Yeah.
Or they have 11. They're up there.
And the Raiders' defense isn't outstanding, but Max Crosby. I was actually thinking about this today, John. As I was looking back at the film, I was thinking about this. All the different ways the Bears try to contain him. I think that's up there with the Khalil Mack game that I saw in person in Green Bay. in 2018, just in terms of how good a player was. Kind of single-handedly throughout a game from start to finish. It was very, very impressive.
And the crazy thing about those games, though, despite those performances, neither player won.
That is scary. Micah Parsons.
It's a quarterback league.
Micah Parsons didn't win on Sunday either. Who's another one? The best pass rushers. It's a quarterback league. But it is crazy when you do what the Bears did on Sunday and get away with it, especially on the rushing side of it, with the amount of rushing yards they gave up versus what they ran for.
Well, the Bears defense just happens to be the worst rushing defense in the entire league after 4 weeks, surrendering not by far the most, because the Buffalo Bills, apparently they have a bad rush defense too, but they also have Josh Allen. The Bears' rush defense is allowing 164.5 yards per game. They've allowed 658 yards in 4 weeks. That is not good. Back to Caleb Williams for a moment. The most encouraging stat for me is his sack percentage.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially after last season, especially with it being noted that one of the concerns about his play is that he holds the ball too long. He doesn't get it out on time. So to see him above league average, I think that's an important step in the right direction for him in terms of playing within the structure that Ben Johnson wants him to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a testament to the
Also
upgrade.
very elusive.
Yeah, the upgrades they've made on the offensive line, and him just doing a better job of running the offense and avoiding the sacks too. I think it's all that. All right, well, that was pretty good.
Those were a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it was a lot of numbers.
Point is, those are some numbers.
I don't know if Kevin Clark's going to have as many numbers, but he is going to join us after we take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. It's always fun talking to Kevin Clark from Omaha and ESPN and the This Is Football podcast. He's always entertaining and has good perspective on things football, and I'm sure I'll have some good thoughts here on Caleb Williams. So that's coming up next. Don't go anywhere. But first,
all right, Adam, let's be real for a second. The world's gone soft. Everyone gets a trophy. Everyone gets ribbons. I hate the ribbons. Not a fan of the ribbons. They're awful.
Yeah, we should ban ribbons. Just ban ribbons altogether.
Like, kids lose them immediately. Anyway, no ribbons. And no cheap medals either. Soda, Adam, used to have some kick. Now it's all about pretty colors and easy fizz. RC Cola is not a soft drink, just damn good cola. RG is an OG cola in the world of spineless soft drinks. No trends, no gimmicks, no glow-ups. RC hasn't changed its stripes since 1905 because it didn't need to. It's the same bold, crisp flavor it's always been. So do yourself a favor. Grab yourself some RC at your local store. Stock up for all your end-of-summer parties, back-to-school celebrations, or just watching the game. Cubs games. Do that.
Yeah.
RC is the move for whatever you're doing.
Yes, it is. And, despite the warm temperatures, I got to tell you, technically fall is here. And even with the warm temperatures, I've had the fire pit on at night, a little crisp air, football. It always feels pretty good. But if you're like most guys, you're still putting in hard work, and that means you're sweating, and you don't want body odor to sideline you. That's why we're bringing Mando to Hoge Jahns for the first time. You know that feeling. It's game day. You've been working hard all week. Your lucky jersey might not be smelling lucky. Check out Mando because it actually stops odor before it even starts. No more masking, just freshness, the clinical strength, sweat control. One swipe and you're ready to go. It's deodorant re-engineered to stop odor before it starts. Go to shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we said you can get 20% off site-wide right now with code CHGO. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. Time now to bring in our friend Kevin Clark. Does such a great job covering the NFL, the This Is Football podcast. He's had such great guests as Peyton Manning, Josh Allen, Rich Eisen, Adam Hoge. You know, it's been a
The big three.
Snuck that right in there.
Yeah. No, I know I'm up towards the top. We don't even need to talk about it. No, it's a great show. I love listening to it, Kevin. Appreciate you jumping on with us here on Hoge Jahns.
I'm fired up. You guys in Chicago have a little bit of momentum for the first time in a long time, and so I'm excited to talk a little Bears.
So what does Mr. This Is Football think of Bears football right now in 2025?
So I thought the Bears were going to be so much better. And I'm sorry. I'm not like, oh, what the hell is going on in September? No. Coming into this season, I thought that this was a team that was going to compete for the playoffs. And the reason I thought that was I saw a number over the summer that astounded me, stopped me in my tracks, which is that Caleb Williams had the most unblocked pressures in the history of Next Gen Stats last year. And he was also the most pressured quarterback and the most sacked quarterback and all sorts of things since Next Gen Stats started, which was a decade ago. And part of that was that Caleb Williams held onto the ball too long. But part of that was because the protection schemes up front through personnel and just design were amateurish. And all of a sudden you get Ben Johnson, who knows what it looks like up front. And then you get Joe Tooney, and then you get Drew Dahlman. And then all of a sudden you're going to go, okay, well, Caleb's going to have a professional NFL platform from which to throw. And there have been a couple lows in the first month of the season, but the trajectory, I think they're still on it. Like I saw a number the other day that Caleb Williams had his best performance against the blitz against the Raiders. So like there's something to build on here. And I still want to see Caleb throw on time a little bit more. But I think there's just something there where competence is like 80% of this deal. You know, like they say, 90% of life is showing up. Like having a roster and a coaching staff that knows what you're supposed to do, which it didn't feel like the last staff did, is a big chunk of it. And so I think that the Bears have shown me through a month that they're on track. I don't think it's there's a couple teams where I thought they'd be so much better this year and they just haven't shown that. Tennessee Titans, for instance, maybe the worst team in the NFL. But with the Bears, with Caleb, I think it's all right on time, guys.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because we just kind of went through, before bringing you on, a bunch of just sort of bye-week stat check-ins. It's still probably a little too early to put too much stock in all this stuff. But when you do start to see, and honestly, I care more about what the film looks like, and I just see a quarterback who's way more in rhythm, better footwork, seems like he's comfortable in the pocket, and even on a game like Sunday, and I realize that Bears-Raiders game wasn't the most watched game that the Chiefs were playing at the same time against the Ravens, but Max Crosby might have been the best player on any football field on Sunday in the entire league, and Caleb still handled it pretty well. Was he a little bit more jittery than a week ago against the Cowboys? Sure, but it still was pretty okay.
And what I also said is that 2024 Caleb folds in that spot and so does the entire team. That's how I feel about it. It's like that's the difference between this year and last year, is that I think that they know that they're going to be put in a better position. I think that's the confidence that a better coaching staff can give you. And so last year, listen, I alluded to it in my last answer, but Caleb Williams, his fatal flaw as a player is that he holds on to the ball too long. And to have the protections that he had last year, I think made everybody a little bit spooked the entire game. And so now, as you said, he looks way more comfortable getting rid of the ball quickly. And if he holds on to the ball too long, it's going to take a little longer to get there. It's funny. I had Trace Smith on my show this week, and we do badasses, and you put the thing. Someone inducts a badass. Their photo goes up behind me, and the number one name. I said, "Who's your badass?" And he said, "Joe Tooney." He said, as a rookie, Trace Smith said, as a rookie, that basically Joe Tooney said, "I'm not going to let you fail." And I think that you bring those guys in. And all of a sudden there's a culture change. And I don't think that's just about the offensive line. That's the entire team. They did I'm not like a massive Ryan Poles fan. I was on NFL Live the day he got extended and I did not agree. My feeling on it, guys, is like Ryan Poles' job is to be Ben Johnson's buddy, right? I can be his executor. And if Ben Johnson says, "I want this guy for another 4 years," then guess what? He gets to stay another 4 years. That's my viewpoint on it. But I haven't been incredibly impressed with the talent acquisition there. But what I can say is the guys so far, it looks like hits, and the team just looks more comfortable.
What do you make of the national conversation around Caleb Williams? Like, I feel like some weeks it's complete panic, or especially early on in the season. Now, like a week after that, Dan Orlovsky's going through the film, telling everybody it's not that bad. Now people after 2 weeks are feeling a little bit better. Like, how do you digest all of this?
I think that, to be frank, Jaden Daniels' injury helps the conversation for that, and I thought I put Jaden Daniels in the kind of the morning shows I do. I put Jaden Daniels in the top tier of quarterbacks this year, because my feeling on it is the top tier of quarterbacks props open a championship window wherever they go, which means if Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes go to Cleveland, the championship window opens there. Okay. And I put Jaden Daniels in that because we saw proof of concept last year that he was able to do that with the Commanders franchise that nobody, Dominic Foxworth for the line, he lives in the DC area. People were pretending to not be fans for the past 20 years. And then all of a sudden it's, oh, here come the Commanders. We've always loved them. Right. And so I think the fact that he's out and the Commanders lost, it's not the same as the CJ Stroud, Bryce Young thing a couple of years ago, right? Where it was just so obvious that the Panthers erred. And if you guys remember, David Tepper basically he blamed the Texans for not winning in week 17 because otherwise he would have gotten to not pick Bryce Young. And it's like, what? Whoa, you had the pick. You could have picked anybody. You traded to the pick. But anyway, that is way more of like a psychological damage thing because it was so obvious that CJ Stroud was better than Bryce Young. I think with Caleb, we just need to see more data. It was clear last year was a disaster zone. And what was funny to me is the tape guys, if you remember a couple of years ago, guys, all the tape guys, their big line about Trevor Lawrence was that the urban year didn't count because it was just, there was not a professional in the building. Okay. I always made fun of that because every year is an NFL guy counts. And but I think you could probably extend, if you wanted to, that same grace to Caleb last year, where you say, hey, the Eberflus here, who the hell knows what's going on? They hire a bad offensive coordinator. They're not watching film. All these stories are coming out afterwards. If you wanted to, you could. I just think that the national conversation, to me, it's too early to say anything. Like, we're just going to go back and forth. We just, and I put myself in this. I'm a national pundit, right? Like, we see the ball hit the ball. There's no, what's funny about it is everyone's always like, well, the national narrative, the marching order has been passed down. Not really. We just react to what we see. And if Caleb Williams has 3 amazing games this week, we're going to start talking about whether or not he's better than Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix or Bo Nix or any of these guys from that draft class. So the national conversation to me is completely TBD.
Yeah. And I thought the best example of that was and I always black out and immediately forget the preseason as soon as it's over. But in the moment, it always feels like such a big deal. And the Bears played on Sunday Night Football, right? It was against the Bills, and he looked great. And then every show on Monday morning was like, oh my God, Caleb's here. Then they played Monday Night Football in the opener, and they blew it in the fourth quarter, and Caleb wasn't accurate. And then, so it's good. And that doesn't mean any of that's wrong, by the way. They are just reacting to what they're seeing in front of them. It just takes some time.
I actually, on Mina Kimes' show last week, I went on a little rant about this, about preseason and about what we take from it. Because you guys know this, but the fans don't know it. And then for some reason, national pundits don't know it either. Preseason is real deal meaningless, like completely irrelevant other than health. And like I went to the Eagles-Bengals preseason game, and Zach Taylor afterwards, they're like, hey, how did Shamar Stewart look? And he had to be like, guys, he had basically, without saying it, like, we don't care how he looked. Like, he's out there, like he's out there. They're not game planning anything. And they're talking about Joe Burrow, because he was out there and he was playing. And they were like, how did Joe look? And he's like, Joe was out there because he needed a couple reps where he might get hit, right? Like, they're not worried about the operation of the offense. And then, but yet it's like, Jackson Dart, right? Oh, Jackson Dart, like, he looks so good. Nobody's trying. I saw a screen grab yesterday, okay, from a Titans preseason game where a Titans fan was like, what happened to this? It's from like August 7th. And it was Cam Ward playing in like the most beautiful pocket you've ever seen in your life. And people were like, what happened? Oh, people started trying. And so it's just so funny to me when it's like the preseason narrative, because I remember that little mini wave for Caleb Williams. It's like that we can't, any hype, good or bad, in the preseason is always wrong.
What do you make of, like, how much are you watching Ben Johnson? Like, how much are you taking note of his viral clips, whether it's
Yeah,
him in the locker room?
I'm watching the CBS halftime interviews. Yeah, I'm dialed in.
Well, those two, like every time he's on camera on the sideline, what he's saying, like, what do you make of his first 4 games, just from like a public relations standpoint?
So I don't know if I've visited with you guys since Ben Johnson was hired, but I want to tell you a story. So Dan Campbell's first year, I went to Detroit, and he'd done the kneecap press conference, and I said, man, everybody's making fun of him, and he's become a punchline. And I called the Lions, and I was like, hey, I want to sit down with this guy, because I don't think he's what the national media is portraying him as. I think that he loves football, and he was just saying what spoke to him, and I just want to sit down with him. So I ended up sitting down for about an hour in his office, and I went up to the PR guy, Eamon Reynolds, in Detroit. The next day, I was there for like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, hey, who knows Dan and the staff? And the answer was, Aaron Glenn had been on the staff with him, but really you should be talking to the tight ends coach, Ben Johnson, because Ben knew him in Miami and empowered him. I think he was assistant tight ends coach for Dan Campbell in Miami, and at one he was inherited, and then Dan kept him on and empowered him and promoted him and all that stuff. And it wasn't like a linear thing where it was like he was his chief of staff for the whole time or whatever. It was like, they mixed and matched. And what was amazing about Ben is it felt like he understood, having not played in the NFL, exactly why players respected Dan Campbell, right? And how authentic you had to be, and how much you had to connect with a player in a real meaningful way. And so I'm sitting here, whatever year that was, 2021, 2022. I'm saying, man, this guy's a little different. This guy views football differently than a lot of assistant coaches. And again, you could never glean from that. Again, I thought Brian Callahan saw football differently, and he's about to be done in Tennessee, right? So you can never 100% be sure, right? But I kept an eye on him from then, and he had a line that I think has gone viral since in that piece, where he basically said, like, Dan Campbell means so much to me that he never has to yell, because I just want to I want to please him at all times, right? Basically, there's no yelling, because we don't want to let him down, and so he never has to be disappointed or yell at us, because we're already disappointed in ourselves because we love Dan Campbell so much, right? I think Ben has that mentality of, like, he wants his staff to like him so much that they will perform for him, which is what Dan had. And so I've always kept that in mind, Ben in mind, and I thought he was going to be an awesome coach. And it was interesting the last couple of years to see him turn down jobs, turn down interviews, turn down opportunities. I think part of that, I think that there was a misread where people were like, well, he's just a humble guy who wants to call plays. I think part of it was he had a lot of confidence in himself, knew that the opportunities were going to come, was waiting for the exact right moment. I had Daniel Jeremiah on my show last year, and he said, hey, if I'm Ben Johnson, I keep rolling it over until Cincinnati comes open, which who knows when that's going to be. But like, he was the only guy who could really name his price and name his situation, right? And that he named the Chicago Bears, which in and of itself is a win. But to answer your question, like, how much am I watching? I'm watching him a lot, and I think he's checking all the right boxes. It's not as talented as it's so funny, because Aaron Glenn is in the situation Dan Campbell was in, right? Where bridge quarterback, not a lot of talent. They're going to win 3 games this year. They're going to win 8 games next year, and then the third year, right? Brad Holmes, the GM, had a line when I was there in Detroit that same year where he was like, hey, this is the HVAC year. We're just tearing everything down. Chicago's not in that situation, because Chicago, they should win now. And so it's not a one-to-one thing with Detroit. It's not, hey, we need to find a quarterback. You have a quarterback. Hey, we need to find weapons. Nope, you have 2 really good weapons, and you have a couple tight ends who can play. And the defense should be coming along. You're in year whatever you are with polls, 4 or 5. You should be coming along simply. Next year, to me, for me, I'm looking at this year and I'm saying Ben has to prove that he's competent this year, which he's doing. And then next year is the year where it's, hey, if you aren't in the playoffs, that's when I'm like, come on, man, let's get the show on the road.
So I think a lot of Bears fans felt that idea of like being flattered that Ben Johnson picked Chicago, and I think some are still very surprised he did. I agree with everything you just said in terms of the timeline. And yet, I think you look at this franchise and the amount of coaching searches Adam and I have covered here, and GM searches, and the fact that they haven't won a playoff game since George McCaskey took over as the chairman of the board. There's some it still seems like there's some skeletons in the closet at Howells Hall that Ben Johnson is being tasked to overcome it in some of the ways that Dan Campbell had to do in Detroit. Take this losing organization and take it into this century and flip the culture. It's interesting you said earlier about the game Sunday being a game that, they lose in the past, because you know who said that to me yesterday in the locker room? DJ Moore said that. So there's some early signs here, even though the Bears are 2-2, they blew it on Monday Night Football. They gave up 52 points to Ben Johnson's old team, that some of this stuff is starting to flip. I guess that's a long-winded way of me trying to ask you, when the hell will we know if, Ben Johnson really is the real deal? Because it seems like he is, but it's still early.
I do a radio show on Sundays with Mike Tannenbaum. And actually, the third guy is Drew Butler, who is the son of Kevin Butler, the longtime Bears place kicker or punter.
Yeah, butthead.
Yeah, his son's really good. His son's
yeah.
really good on the radio. He does local stuff in Atlanta. Now he's working with us on ESPN Radio. But we were talking about the Saints, and we were saying no one expects the Saints to win the Super Bowl. And we're talking about Tannenbaum. Tannenbaum's talking about this. What you want to see, and the Bears and Saints are different situations, but you want to see competitive games every single week, and then win games. This for me is the big one. Win games you're not supposed to win, right? Like that is it to me. Like the Raiders, I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, beating the Raiders is the Bears are back, right? Like I'm not going to do that. But you say, hey, we went on the road in Detroit and we stole one. We went on the road in Green Bay and we stole one. We went on the road in Minnesota if JJ, and we scored 28 points in a Brian Flores defense. It's those kind of things that I look for early. That to me is the sign of culture. Again, the difference to me in making the playoffs and being a wild card contender, especially in a year like this where weird things are happening, you don't know the roster that well. The difference between winning 8 and 10 games, sometimes it's a couple fumbles. Sometimes it's a couple of busts early in the season. You don't remember it. So like if they win 8 games and miss the playoffs this year, I'm not going to declare anything. No one busted. Okay. Like I'm not going to say it's over. But what I'm going to say is competitiveness, not making stupid mistakes. And I think what's going on right now with Aaron Glenn with the Jets is that everybody's all pissed off because all these pre-snap penalties. Right. And like that to me is a really important part of it is like, don't play stupid, play prepared. And that, so when will you know? Bears fans don't want to hear this. You'll know this at the end of year 3, right? Like that's it, and you'll know. You'll know that with Caleb too. Like you probably know at the end of next year with Caleb, but at some point you got to sign him. So Lord knows what he's going to make if he is worthy of a second contract. Probably be like $70 million by then, in 2 years. Or 60, 65, whatever it is. But I mean, Trevor Lawrence is getting 55 a couple years ago, just trajectory wise. But I'm gonna give it an end of year 3 when we know what we've got in our hands in Chicago, and I'm optimistic.
I think what struck me the most so far about Ben Johnson, at least in the early going here, is like how open and willing he is to be accountable to himself.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned pre-snap penalties. The Bears had problems with those throughout training camp, the preseason, early on the season. He wants blame. Like even like this earlier this week, the run game isn't working.
Right.
Like, and then the Bears run defense is awful. But as far as the Bears run game, forget DeAndre Swift. Ben Johnson is putting that on himself for not figuring out what's wrong and what's not working. I don't know if you've noticed some of that, but to me, early on, him accepting accountability publicly and saying that, it stands out.
It's funny. I've heard this before where someone once said to me, this is actually when I was covering basketball, they were like, don't take the blame for everything, because at some point the owner is going to believe you, right? And like I think that's a fun, and so I was thinking, I think about that all the time, because the guys who really take the blame are the guys who have a lot of juice and a lot of capital, and like Ben Johnson can own it and do it because he's got a long contract, he's got a lot of confidence, and the city believes in him, right? So it's on. If he was a less secure, like Matt Eberflus probably could not have just sat there and said, "This was on me. This was on me. This was on me." Especially last year,
He
because
didn't.
He didn't.
That's why. That's why he lost the locker room.
Right. And so there actually, accountability is a skill, guys. Accountability is a skill, and Ben Johnson has it. And again, I think that comes from Dan Campbell and seeing what he has, and then also Dan Campbell learned it from Sean Payton, learned it from Bill Parcells. There's a line in Bill Parcells' book where he says, any mistake we make is a coaching mistake. If somebody drops a pass and they're wide open by 20 yards and it would have been a 70-yard touchdown to win the game, our wide receivers coach did a bad job. And I think there's a lineage there from Parcells to Payton to Campbell to Ben Johnson where we really believe that. And I think that's a really, really, really healthy thing to have in a locker room.
So before we get out of here, I want to get your thoughts on the NFC North as a whole through 4 weeks, which it looks competitive, but it's also been weird, like that tie on Sunday night. What do you make of things?
Yeah, not what I expected. So I thought JJ McCarthy was gonna be, I don't want to say good. I want to say that I thought Kevin O'Connell was gonna be able to scheme up easy stuff over the middle, and that he was going to be able to have a lot of early success. He did not, and now it looks like the Vikings are trying to find any excuse to keep him from playing. And like Tracy Wolfson's like, well, yeah, there's not feeling a lot of pain, and Kevin O'Connell's like, yeah, it's going to be a while. Oh yeah, it's going to be a while. Like, I don't really know. I have no idea what the hell's going on there. Okay, and then the Packers to me are the most disappointing so far. To lose that game, you're talking about someone taking blame in Cleveland. Matt LaFleur said that stupid play call that led to the Grant Delpit interception that lost him the game, that was all on him. They should have just run the ball out of the bootleg. Jordan Love should have gotten a couple yards, and then they could have, like, Joe Flacco's not scoring 14 points if you give him real deal field position, right? And so it's been really disappointing in that regard for the Packers. I thought that they were going to be a lot better. Their defense, even though Dak Prescott's amazing, their defense looked pretty bad. And then Detroit looks like Detroit. And so I still think any four of these teams can make the playoffs. I'm not eliminating anybody. And you know, Brian Flores' defense is going to keep the Vikings in it for the entire year. The only thing I would change, I still think the Packers are probably going to be an NFC contender at the end of the year. The Vikings, especially if Carson Wentz starts a lot more games, I think you can kind of remove them from NFC contention at the very least.
Okay. All right. That's a good check in here after 4 weeks, both Packers and Bears on their bye. I saw you went to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
As a golf guy, I got to ask you about it.
Yeah.
I went to the Ryder Cup at Medina in 2012. I still say it's like one of the best sporting events, if not the best I've ever been to. And that was despite the fact the U.S. blew that one on Sunday. This one was a little less competitive, although it got interesting on Sunday. What did you think?
So I don't know how you viewed it, but the Ryder Cup to me was an amazing experience to see golf shots, to be there, the energy of the crowd. It is the worst place on earth to follow the event. and you don't, like, in the morning sessions, because it's alternate shot, there's 8 balls total in the air. So people were like, oh, it's like any golf tournament. No, it's not. Imagine the Masters if there were 8 balls in the air and everyone just hovered around those 8 shots. So afternoon, we figured out, instead of trying to, like, oh, we're going to the tee box, we're going to the green, we're going to see this because there's too many people, we just walked alongside them, saw their fairway shots where they spend the most time anyway, and then skipped the greens and then would go to the next hole. And so we were able to see a lot of, like, John Rahm and Scotty Scheffler and Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Thomas, those guys. But you can't really, I mean, it's like us, right? We hit a shot, and we don't know where the hell it is on the green. And so you kind of have to go by what the crowd, the golfers don't know either. So you kind of have to go what the crowd is saying, because it's a lot of elevated greens at Bethpage Black. And so it was an amazing experience I will just say I have less than zero idea of what the hell actually happened in the golf on the day as I was there.
Yeah. I remember like getting one of those earpieces that like Sirius XM's
Oh yeah.
radio coverage, so I could and then I just walked the course because it was so beautiful and fun. But all right, well, maybe in 2 years they'll win. Probably not. Kevin, thank you so much for jumping on with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kev.
All right, Kevin Clark from This Is Football, ESPN, Omaha. He's everywhere. Incredible interviews on the podcast too. And I'll just say this: I didn't like the Ryder Cup experience this year, Johnsy. I know you didn't really follow it. I thought the course.
Well, once they fell behind, I was like, my interest kind of tuned out.
Right, and I guess it got interesting Sunday. Obviously, we were in Vegas. We were covering a football game, but I was kind of following it at the tailgate. I'm like, oh, they're not out of it yet. And then it was funny because like the exact second I checked it, I like realized that this one match was on the last shot, and if it went this way, and then sure enough, like that, it was over. I was like, so much for that. I just thought it was. I thought the course was disappointing. I honestly thought the crowd was disappointing. I thought it got a little too feisty. Some lines were crossed, and obviously the U.S. didn't play well either. Yeah. At home, not good.
You got to win your home games.
Got to win the home games. It's good advice for the Bears, who still aren't going to be home for what? Basically 2.5 more weeks.
Correct.
It's the New Orleans Saints.
Your math is
bad.
Correct.
The Saints are bad. They're feisty though.
Bad and feisty? Feisty bad.
I don't know why I've watched as much Saints football as I have, but they are 0-4, and in 3 of their games, they were actually pretty feisty. The other one, they didn't show up in Seattle, but they went to Buffalo on Sunday, and they had a chance to win that game.
I feel like you and I have covered some feisty, bad Bears teams.
Mm-hmm. There was a John Fox team that was feisty.
That was feisty, and feistiness would fluctuate a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously coming up for the Saints is a rematch against the Washington Commanders that'll be talked about a lot. Who do the Commanders play? I should know that by now at this point. Good thing I have a schedule in front of me. NFC East, Washington. They're at LA, the Chargers. So they got to go across the country this week to play the Chargers. And
then they come back to Monday night.
And Monday night after that. So they'll have an extra day of rest too. Bears, of course, will be on a lot of rest. And it's on Monday Night Football. So, we'll get it. We have 3 episodes next week. So we got plenty of time to break down that matchup. And, of course, all the storylines that will go into it. But I'll just go into the bye week with this. It feels like a big game. It feels like a big opportunity, especially with the Saints looming behind that, a very winnable game at home. You know, the difference between you stole one in L.A. You probably gave one away against the Vikings. You even that out, you're 2-2. You're probably where you should be. Big opportunity to go into Washington. You get a win there. Then the Saints at home. Now you start to get back on track with some of that stuff we were just talking about with Kevin, some of those preseason expectations. But if you don't win that game, you fall to 2-3. Then you're just trying to get even, and maybe this is a season where they're just kind of hovering around 500. There's so many different outcomes right now. It's still so early.
But even now, you have more data. You have more info on how to project different games, like the Baltimore Ravens. I thought that'd be an awful matchup for the Bears heading into the season.
Yeah.
The Ravens defense is not good. It's not good at all. Joe Burrow, he's out for the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, that's a game that if you go through your projections, your wins and losses before the season, like, that's a loss in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is not playing. That is a different team without Joe Burrow. So this schedule is starting to shift, I think, in the Bears' favor in some of these matchups.
Even Jaden Daniels, he's been out now. I feel like he'll probably be back by that Monday nighter, if not this week. But Terry McLaurin has been hurt. So, Debo's still healthy, but he's always seemingly dealing with some stuff. So, yeah, that's a good point. Things always change. That's why I guess those people in the offseason are like, it's so ridiculous to predict the games in May. And I'm like,
everybody does it.
I'm like, kind of, but you know what? You don't like to have fun because Why not?
Everybody in the NFL, GMs, presidents included, owners, they get the schedule. They go through things game by game, and in their head, at the very least, pick which ones they think they will win.
Yeah.
Everybody does it.
All right. Well, that was fun with Kevin. And it was good sort of zoom out on Caleb Williams through 4 weeks. We will be off for the weekend for the bye. Hopefully enjoy the football, enjoy the weather. It's supposed to be like summer this weekend in
90.
Chicago. I'm glad I'm not going anywhere actually. So enjoy what'll probably be the last of summer. And then we'll hit fall. We'll hit the Commanders week, going strong next week, starting on Monday. Looking forward to all that. Any final thoughts, Johns?
No, enjoy the bye week, everybody. Thanks to everyone who said hello in Las Vegas, even our last night there. Monday night, people were still coming up to us, me and Braggs and Steven. So thank you to everyone. We will see you all very soon.
All right. Talk to you after